Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, I can get some more enthusiasm out of you than that. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. All right, hooah. All right, welcome to the second day of the VMI's Leadership Conference. We have another great morning planned for you. Two great guest speakers, some more outstanding panels, and then around 11:50 or so today, for those of you who are able to stay, we'll walk over to Cameron Hall, which is across campus, for the Jonathan Daniels Humanitarian Service Award and listen to Representative Lewis and his presentation. I'll talk a little bit more about that later in the conference for instructions. But now, it's my great pleasure to introduce this morning's speaker, Dr. Barry Asmus. Dr. Asmus is a senior economist with the National Center for Policy Analysis. He is a strong advocate of free market economics and the author of 9 books, including The Poverty of Nations, A Sustainable Solution. In this latest work, Dr. Asmus and his colleague analyze the causes behind poverty and argue that solutions are directly related to the expansion of economic freedom. This takes a certain type of leadership to do that, though. Dr. Asmus will challenge you to think about economic barriers, including the effects of culture, tribalism, and religion, and ways to expand economic opportunities. And his goal is to educate and inspire you to help lead necessary changes to improve people's lives and undercut poverty. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Barry Asmus.
Good morning. Did they come through? Good morning, yeah, Cal. I arrived on your campus yesterday afternoon. What a delightful experience. I'd been to Roanoke before. I am a huge Jefferson fan, so I love being in all of this, but to come and to see the campus was just great, and never thought that I'd get this kind of an opportunity, but so thank you. Thank you. I'm going to give it all I've got to make this a good hour. Economists, I mean, you can see we do not have a packed room. Economists, they're negative. They've predicted 8 of the last 3 recessions. Most economists choose to become economists because they do not have the personality to become an accountant. I was born and raised on a farm in eastern Colorado, Fort Morgan, little town of 5,000, little nondescript prairie town with nothing unique about it, except there were 5,000 people that lived in it, but I wasn't even in that. I was out on a farm 2 miles out of town. We had 160 acres of agricultural land to farm, sugar beets, corn, alfalfa. We had a feedlot. We milked 6 cows in the morning and 6 cows in the evening. So from the time I was a tiny little boy till I was 18 years old, I knew nothing else but to milk cows in the morning and milk cows in the evening. You don't own cows, they own you. And so you don't have too much of a chance to go camping and play golf and do all the things that a lot of kids get to do. But on a farm you work, and you work hard, very hard. So I was thrilled to become 18 years old and go off to college. My dad said, you're going to try college, and I did. So I went to Colorado State University. I met my wife on the very first day of class. We walked out of class, and I walked her to her dorm, and we went out to a movie on Friday night, and the rest is history. So we got married the middle of our junior years in college, and we've been married for 52 years. So it's been just a lot of fun. And when I thought there was going to be a whole bunch more cadets in the audience today, but I was going to say to them, make sure you guys pull a trigger, pull the trigger. You never have enough money to get married. You might as well do it when you're young. My wife and I were 20 years old when we got married, and so that's what I was going to say, but not to this audience. You don't need to hear that kind of a message. Dr. Wayne Grudem and I have been friends. He's my co-author of our book. I'll show it to you in just a second. When you travel the world a bit, and both Wayne and I got the opportunity to do that, be in all the continents and in Africa half a dozen or 24 times, and South America and Asia and so on. When you see poverty, the first thing you want to do is do something about it. You feel very, very uncomfortable with it. The first time that I was in Africa was in the late 70s, and I finished some speaking in Mozambique, and we're ready to leave and saying goodbye to some people, so you kind of kneel down and put your arms around the children and give them a kiss and wipe the flies off their faces, and then the next child to wipe the flies and give them a kiss and wipe the flies. And you do that, and then you fly back to Scottsdale, Arizona, where we live. We've lived there for 33 years. Nice home and a swimming pool and clean bedrooms, and just wonderful. And it's haunting. It's haunting. It just absolutely eats your guts out to see poverty. And it just doesn't end. It doesn't end. Now, most recently, just a couple months ago, we flew to Uganda and spent 2 weeks in Uganda. And Uganda has a per capita income of $1,500 a year. That's very, very low. They're really struck with poverty. They have so very little. And I'm riding through the capital of Uganda, Kampala, with a doctor. She's kind of giving me a tour, and she said, this is the hospital that I work at. Would you like to go in to see what a Uganda hospital looks like? And so indeed I did. And the medical equipment is minimal compared to any hospital in America. But the stunning thing was to go to the birthing room, and here on concrete floor lie six women having babies all by themselves, no nurses, no doctors, no help, just having babies all by themselves. And so we got back in the car, and she said, I'm not going to burden you with statistics, but we lose 8,500 mothers a year in Uganda giving birth, 8,500. Now, a country the same size of Uganda is Canada, with about 30 million people. Uganda has about 30 million people. Canada loses 15 women per year giving birth to a baby. We lose 8,500. So this doctor started something called Save the Mothers, because if you can save the mother, you'll obviously save the child too, because to save the mother, the child is not born an orphan. But anyway, it was just stunning to stand on a birthing floor, concrete birthing floor, and watch women struggle having their babies, and then get back in the car and go back to where we were staying, and try to get your head and your life back to some kind of a normal. Poverty, no matter where you see it, how you see it, whether it be in someplace in Asia, someplace in Africa, someplace in South America. Stunning, stunning. You want to do something? Wayne and I, 10 years ago, started taking food to the food bank in Phoenix, Southwest Phoenix, the poor area, a lot of poor people in the borough, and so we took food on a regular basis and filled a pantry. And then we said, you know what? Wayne has written about a dozen books. I've written about a dozen books. Why don't we write on this? Well, there's only one little problem. He's a theologian. I'm an economist. And poverty and development is not my area. Our think tank, the National Center for Policy Analysis, we're mainly into energy and healthcare. And so that's where most of my presentations were, in energy and healthcare. So we said, well, nothing like learning. So we went to the various poor places in the world. We took a whole year out in various places of poverty. And then we'd write and talk and discuss and write and talk and discuss and read and read and read. And the two of us each read about 100 books, which does not make you an expert by any sense. And you're never an expert on a country unless you've put boots on the ground and have lived there for a year or two or three to really learn the culture. But we saw it. We saw what poverty looks like. On the cover of our book, we put a picture of the world, and we color-coded it. Green is wealthy, blue is wannabe wealthy, red is poor, and dark red-brown is absolute poverty. Poverty of less than $1 or $2 a day of annual per capita income. When we started this book, I would have guessed that the world 1,000 years ago had a little bit of color to it. It's not true. From the beginning of time until the year 1700, in other words, thousands and thousands of years, the whole map is dark red. Poverty. Poverty. Poverty is the natural condition. The world has learned to live in poverty, i.e. defining as maybe less than $2 or $3 per year, per day, per capita income, low, nothing, poverty. And that described the world. Naturally, when your country is in poverty, you proceed to say, well, what do we do about it? And so nations have tried everything. Hunting and gathering, subsistence farming, slavery, feudalism, mercantilism, colonialism, socialism, communism. They've tried every system in the world and can't make it work to get out of poverty. There's only one system that can do that. Free market capitalism. One system. So right away when we start saying, how is that going to fly when we go to South America, where by and large people do not like the word capitalism? How is that going to fly when we're in Africa talking? So we drop the word capitalism and just use the word free market. And so I can unequivocally look you in the eye and say, the only economic system that can pull people out of poverty is the free market. That's the only. These other ones have huge flaws with their incentive systems, and they can't get the job done. And the world's been trying to get the job done over the last thousands of years and has not accomplished it until we reach the last 3 centuries. So that was, I think, the first big revelation that hits all of us as far as poverty is concerned. Nations mean well. Unfortunately, intentions aren't going to get it done. There have to be outcomes. How and what do you begin to do to lift people out of this horrible, horrible thing called poverty? Sorry. I thought I brought my notes with me, but when people are caught, here's what we found you dare not to do. Don't call people poor. When you call people poor, it breaks their hearts. When it calls people poor, it makes them feel hopeless and helpless. So that does not make any sense, to come at it and worry about terms like that. But rather, we found it's better to see people created in the image of God, each with enormous talent in their hearts and their lives, bursting with abilities if they're ever allowed to show those abilities. So it's just a different way. I think that's a second lesson we learned. Don't go into a country. When we went to Uganda a few months ago, don't stand in front of a Uganda audience and act like you know something about Uganda. Act like you're some kind of a professional when it comes to Uganda. These are unique, wonderful people. They've had sets of events that have happened in their lives that just have not allowed them any kind of liftoff, out of poverty. And it is a heartbreaker that that is the case. Certainly, economic systems have not done it. There's 2 hunters that went to Alaska to hunt moose. They were on a tight schedule. The pilot said, we'll pick you guys up in 3 days at the edge of the lake. So sure enough, there they are, ready to go. So load up all the stuff, ready to fly out. And they said, what about our moose? What about our moose? And the pilot said, you shot a moose? No, we each shot a moose. And the pilot says, guys, we get that moose on each pontoon on the airplane, too much weight. We'll never get off the water. We did it last year. The pilot is shocked. You did? You did? So they load up the moose and they taxi to the edge of the lake. They wind up the airplane. Tighter and tighter they come across the water. Faster, faster. They barely lift off. Bam! They hit a tree. There's moose meat everywhere. One of the hunters is down in the mud saying, Joe, where are we? Where are we? And Joe's hanging up in a tree saying, from what I can tell, 50 feet farther than last year. Well, countries trying system after system after system, 50 feet farther than last year, but that's not going to get it done. Point one, economic systems, by and large, have failed in bringing people out of poverty. Point two is religions have been of not much help either. Unfortunately, most religions, with the exception of Judaism and Christianity, most religions are progress resistant. When a religion does not educate its girls, by definition, progress resistant. When you found it? Oh, bless your heart. I wonder, where'd that fall out? Oh, that's so funny. When a religion locks people in a caste and they can't get out, that's progress resistant. Religion after religion is by and large progress resistant. Probably the #1 expert in the world is Lawrence Harrison from Cambridge University. He's written 10, 15 books. This is just one of his books. One of his important books that he became famous in is called Culture Matters, but this one's called A Central Liberal Truth. Here's what he says. Unfortunately, as you look at religion's responsibility to help people get out of poverty, they are so progress resistant. And so he lists them and then talks about the various religions over and over. Interestingly, Christian Protestant, that group of people in the world, 30,000 of annual per capita income. Just far and away the highest, there's nothing close. Judaism is second at 20,000. Roman Catholic is third at 10,000. And then Orthodox, and then Confucian, and all the way down. And the very, very bottom is Hindu. Right above Hindu is Muslim. Right above Muslim is, forget. So you have these religions, by and large, being progress resistant. Now here's the problem. You don't change cultures, and people don't change religions, and by the way, they don't easily change economic systems. Japan did. Japan went from an agricultural country to an industrial country like that, but they had to. General MacArthur made them. Forced the Japanese to change, and so they changed their culture. But by and large, you don't change cultures. So you don't go into a country thinking, for example, when Wayne and I were in Haiti, and you see voodooism, and voodooism is the most progress-resistant religion in the world. So you sit with their leaders of Haiti, and you say, okay, there's nothing that we can do to change that. This country is going to practice voodooism till the day dies. They die. However, would you understand this? You will never get out of poverty under voodooism, ever. It is so progress resistant, there's no way out. Hinduism, the average Hindu, less than $2,000 a year, and that's today. The average Hindu, less than $2,000 a day. In other words, poverty. So, what do you see? You can't change a little bit of hope there. Prime Minister Singh, Prime Minister of India, and Finance Minister prior to that, he's open to some things. He stands in front of India's 1.3 billion people. He stands in front of a billion people, and Prime Minister Singh says, I've got to travel the world as Finance Minister of India and the Prime Minister of India. I go to Silicon, California, and the Indians from India are the richest demographic group. I go down to Cape Town, South Africa, and Indians from India are the richest demographic group. I fly into Kenya, Africa, and Indians from India are creating 70% of the wealth in Kenya. Wherever I go, Indians are doing just fine. Not only just fine, Indians invariably are the richest demographic group in those areas, except in India. What is wrong with this picture? So Prime Minister Singh comes to this conclusion. Perhaps we here in India, as Hindus, have emphasized the wrong thing in our religion. Believe me, we have Hindus that say things like, a full bag is heavy to carry, an empty bag is even heavier. What's the implication? An empty bag, even heavier? Yes, pulls your heart down, pulls your life down, nothing to show your family. So empty bag is even heavier. So let's fill it. Let's have progress. Let's fill it. So what if Hindus would begin to emphasize progress and emphasize filling the bag, etc.? So I guess to say there is always hope. There's always hope, even for the Hindus. But Hindus throughout the world, it's just a very progress-resistant religion. Who would have imagined? I think most of us, when we think of poverty, is maybe mankind has made some gains through the years. It's just not so. The fact is, it's flat. The flat. What does this line mean? This line is making $2 a day of annual per capita income. $2. That's less than $1,000 a year. Less than $1,000 a year of annual per capita income, and that's true for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Countries just can't seem to get liftoff. Then, 1700s, the last 3 centuries, some interesting things happen. You're familiar, the agricultural revolution, Eli Whitney, people like that, pulleys, gears, cams, interchangeable parts, put together equipment, cultivators, plows, reapers, move that reaper into the field. This reaper now can do the work of 15 men. Now we're coming. It's no longer just muscle, ox, horse, muscle, man, muscle. We have a reaper, the agricultural revolution. On top of that, we have then the Industrial Revolution, where you enter electricity and you enter in the gas engine. Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, etc. And now you put a man on a John Deere 45-foot a self-propelled combine. And now this one man on this one combine does the work of 5,000 men. You take him out of his combine, put him into a diesel train with 100 cars behind it, and now this one guy is doing the work of 25,000 men. You take that guy out of the diesel train, put him in the cockpit of a 747 airplane, and now this dude is doing the work of 50,000 men. Well, you begin to see then in the Industrial Revolution how this thing really starts kicking into gear. I mean, when you could have one person on a combine taking the place of 5,000 people sawing and cutting down the grain, that releases 4,999 other people to do something else creative. That's the whole idea. That's what productivity and technology does for it. It allows you to individually become so productive, which frees up other people to do other things, to do other creative things, and that's exactly what happens in the agriculture industrial revolution. And then, of course, we get to the digital revolution. Come on, come on. All of our lives, all of our ancestors' lives, how did life work? Arithmetic, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how you improved anything, arithmetically. Now, we're in the exponential age, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, doubling. It's amazing how big the numbers get then as you keep doubling and doubling and doubling. Let's just put this in perspective. We now have a computer that can read 1 million names and phone numbers in less than a second. 1 million names and phone numbers in less than a second. That's how quick. So we're in an exponential world, which means there is no turning back. And what is pretty beautiful about this is it won't be any time at all that literally everybody is going to be carrying that exponential effort on their wristwatch. As Apple comes out with its new wristwatch a couple of days ago, is there going to be any question that it's going to put enormous computing power at the hands of everybody, and then watch what begins to happen. But once again, it's technology. Once again, it's bringing that John Deere self-propelled combine into the field. Once again, it's that kind of technology that just changes the world, and this one is going to change the world big time, big time. You not only have then the agricultural revolution, the industrial revolution, and the digital revolution, but now you have another addition of two things. One is Adam Smith wrote a book in 1776, still the most powerful economic book that's ever been written. How in the world a guy like Adam Smith, a Scottish philosopher, economist, could write a book, The Wealth of Nations, and put so much good information in one book? It's just beyond nuts. I mean, it was Adam Smith said, no, you don't want to have a person do all the tasks in the factory. They should specialize. There should be division of labor, and everyone do their special tasks, and you'll become much, much more productive. So Adam Smith developed that idea, division of labor, specialization. Adam Smith said, no, we're going to specialize. We are going to trade. We're going to go to comparative advantage. We're Tom Stoffel, there ain't no such thing as a free lunch. And he just developed concept after concept that any poor country in the world, if they would have a moment to read Adam Smith's book, The Wealth of Nations, published in 1776, trust me, they would move a long ways down the road on how to make their people more productive. And that is the issue. Every individual has to become more productive. And Adam Smith said when people get to specialize, when there's division of labor, you specialize and you get better and better and better at that particular task, etc. So Adam Smith, the book changed the world. The book continues to change the world. If it is read, obviously, there's a lot of countries that have not read Adam Smith. At the same time, 1776, that Adam Smith writes his book, there's something else that happens in this world in 1776. A bunch of founding fathers in the United States put together a Declaration of Independence, and they turned the whole world on its ear. How do they turn the whole world on its ear? They said, endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, but among those are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Wait, you don't get it. You don't get it. This is not what governments do. This is not what leaders do. This is not what kings and queens do, is turn over rights to someone else. They, the center of the earth becomes they. No, Thomas Jefferson said we're endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. And so all of a sudden, God takes the center, and not politics and not government. That is a complete tip over of what everything had been about, and all of a sudden, it looks like there's a new government coming here. It looks like. And Thomas Jefferson, to study his life, is the most fascinating life, and a bunch of you in this room are pretty good experts on Thomas Jefferson. You're in Jefferson country, for crying out loud, way more so than when you're like me from the state of Arizona. But I'll tell you, I stand in awe of anyone who could be 28 or 29 years old and said, you know what this country needs? This country needs property rights. You know what this country needs? This country needs to be surveyed. So he lays it out in sections and regions and 1 mile by 1 mile and 36 square miles. And in section 16, you're going to have the county assessor's office, no matter where you go in America. So now you fly over America and you see it divided up just that way, 1 mile by 1 mile, no matter where you go. That was Jefferson's idea. What was Jefferson thinking? Everybody needs a verifiable address. See, when Wayne and I go into a poor country, and we've been in dozens, and it always turns out we get to visit with either the prime minister or the leader for a while. This is not something that a student necessarily has the privilege to go into the prime minister's office. It's difficult to get in the prime minister's office. But we would come in and do lectures in the country, as many as 15, 20. When we were in Beijing, we gave 20 lectures in the greater Beijing area before we got to the top leaders of China. Albania, the same thing. Romania, the same thing. Uganda, really, the same thing. But when you do get to talk to the leader of the country and you say things like, here's the deal. The poor people in your country have some housing, but they don't have a title to that housing. It's poor housing, tents, canvas, cardboard, tin. It's not much, folks. It's not much. But they have some housing, but they don't have a title to that housing. They grow some crops, but they don't have a deed to those crops. They build some small little businesses, but they don't have articles of incorporation. What's the problem here? The problem, these folks do not have property documents. If you do not have a property document, you cannot get collateralized. If you can't get collateralized, the nation will ever grow. You'll never get out of this mess. You'll never get out of poverty without getting collateral. So you need a property document. But before you have a property document, everybody needs a verifiable address. So we sit with presidents and prime ministers. This is the speech we give, and the response has been overwhelming. We came home from Albania. We were not back in Phoenix, Arizona 30 days, and the prime minister was calling, says, I'm bringing my lieutenants to Phoenix, and let's figure this out, how we can get Albania with verifiable addresses. So when Prime Minister stepped into our audience, the whole wall is the country of Albania, who owns what, and in particular we were interested in the beaches, because none of the beaches in Albania have been developed. The beaches are beautiful. The beaches are like the beaches in Hawaii, but there's no hotel, there's no development, there's no swimming, there's no tourism on these beaches. And what's the deal? We don't have the expertise to develop. Well, we'll have some people that have the expertise. All you have to do is sign 30-year leases. So we had people from Ritz-Carlton, JW Marriott, and Four Seasons there to meet the leaders of Albania, and they signed contracts. Let me give you the bottom line. The day has come. The day is coming in the next few years that one of you, it's summertime, let's see, where are we going to go for summer vacation? And one of you is going to say this, let's go to Albania. Trust me, there's no one with a right mind that is saying, let's go to Albania today. One of you is going to go. And when that happens, and you're sitting on that beach in beautiful Albania, I hope you think back to this day and say, well, I'll be darned. I was sitting in an auditorium, and this fruitcake professor from Arizona was telling us, but indeed, it's going to happen. When we came back from Romania, we met the Romanian president. Also, your country needs to get property documents. Your country needs verifiable addresses. Now, why I'm staying on this for just a second is because we're in the heart of Jefferson country. God bless Thomas Jefferson. Here's what's happened in the public schools in Phoenix and the public schools everywhere. You can't fire teachers anymore. I truly think a teacher in Phoenix could rape a co-ed on the desk and in the view of all the students, and it would be very hard to get that teacher fired. Now, that's maybe a bit of an exaggeration, but you don't fire teachers. So all our teachers in the greater Phoenix area, do you think they stay in Scottsdale where we live? Nope. You think they stay in Tempe where Arizona State University is? Nope. Where are all the bad teachers going? Southwest Phoenix. Southwest Phoenix. So now you have thousands of the worst teachers on the planet in Southwest Phoenix teaching the students. I've gone out into those schools and taught in those schools. Honest to God's truth. I'm teaching something about Thomas Jefferson, and the next thing you know, a girl student is saying, F Thomas Jefferson. She's saying F Thomas Jefferson. I'm stunned. I kind of turn about over as white as my shirt. I mean, I can't imagine this. I look at the teacher. I said, what's going on? Did you hear what she said? She said, Dr. Asmus, what do you think she said? Well, what I think she said is F Thomas Jefferson. You weren't listening. She said, in my opinion, F Thomas Jefferson. And we're all allowed to have our own opinions in this classroom. What, out of control. Out of control. Misspellings on the blackboard, rainforest math. Those are the teachers teaching out in Southwest. So when you come to a campus like this, and you meet young men and women like you, it's a stunner. You have to take a big breath. You can't believe, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. Oh, jeez, it's so beautiful. You 20-year-olds, you don't realize. Oh, maybe you do. That's why you're here. Maybe you do. To have that kind of environment. Tell me who your friends are, and I'll tell you who you are. And when you get to associate with a faculty and a staff that exists on these two adjacent campuses here, what a privilege. So I'm throwing out a good word for you all, but really it is just pronounced, especially if you put it in contrast of something that I see all the time. And it is a very rare professor that nets it all out and says, on a whole, Thomas Jefferson, bad guy, he had slavery, and there's nothing Jefferson can do then that would overcome the fact that he was a man of slaves. Now that's a whole nother issue. Not even going to go into it. I'm sure you discuss it some. But this is, in my opinion, total nonsense. Jefferson brought so much to make what this country became, and he did it at a fairly young age. I stand in awe of Thomas Jefferson, but that's just me. I'm just one vote out of many. He's not viewed that way, and it seems maybe it's going to go through a cycle, and maybe Jefferson will come back. I hope so. Certainly in this area, I can't imagine that it would not happen that way, but what an interesting thing to have property rights. What an interesting thing to have a verifiable address. What an interesting, interesting. It's more than interesting. It's the only way that you're going to start coming out of this terrible thing called poverty, is with property documents. Without them, you are in big time trouble. So you have Adam Smith, you have our founding fathers. The founding fathers, the glue to everything they did was really freedom. Freedom is the mainspring of economic progress, they would say. Freedom is a country's best investment, they would say. Freedom is a virus for which there is no antidote, they would say. More freedom, more bread. More freedom, more per capita income. That's how the founding fathers thought. And so it's so interesting to look at the world. It's so interesting to land in 1988 or 89 in Berlin, and you're in West Berlin, vibrant with economic activity and wealth, and you come through Checkpoint Charlie, go through the wall, the Berlin Wall, guns, moats, East Berlin, same city, East Berlin, gray, drab, not many goods on the shelves, back to West Berlin, vibrant. Wait, this is all one city. These are all Germans. This is all the same time period. All the variables are exactly the same. Why such a marked contrast between West Berlin and East Berlin? Well, in West Berlin, there's freedom. More bread. More freedom, more per capita income. Just as the founding fathers said, freedom is a country's best investment. Freedom is a country's best investment. No freedom over here. North Korea, South Korea, same story. Wherever you go in the world, same story. Add a little freedom, and all of a sudden, big things happen. Now, please think about it. China has been trying to figure this thing out for 5,000 years. For 5,000 years, China has been in a struggle mode. Dynasties, emperors, top down, command and control, poverty. China just couldn't figure it out. Once again, that's very surprising. I was a professor of economics for 17 years. We would have busloads of Chinese students come to the campus and spend a year or two or even all 4 years to get their degree. China has sent to America at least 100,000 students each year for the last 30 or 40 years. So it's not only back when I was a professor of busloads of China, but there they are. So they come to learn. And interestingly, as you all know, Chinese are smart students. They do very well. I never had one Caucasian white student ever come to me and say, Dr. Asmus, I'd like to talk about chapter 24. I know chapter 24 is not on the test. I know you said it's not on the test, but I still want to talk about chapter 24. Every Chinese student that I had would come and say, Dr. Asmus, I want to talk to you about chapter 24. You know, 24 is not on the test. I don't care. I want to talk about chapter 24. Give me a break. Chinese are great students. Poverty. Something's fundamentally wrong, folks. When you've got talented people and they can't get out of poverty and they go 5,000 years trying all this kind of stuff and it doesn't work. None the least to say they cap it off with communism, and communism is the most god-awful system there ever was. One, it takes property away from people. Instead of letting people have private property, it takes them away. Here's the problem. Everybody's property is nobody's property. Everybody's business is nobody's business. You cannot make socialism, communism work. There's no human incentive system that can make those two systems work. They won't work, they can't work, they haven't worked, they never will work, and yet here you come into modern day 20th century China, and now they're practicing Mao Zedong communism. Well, in 1977, Mao Zedong died. I guess who becomes the prime minister of China after Mao Zedong? Deng Xiaoping. The reason why I'm telling this story about Deng Xiaoping is because, interestingly, one of Deng Xiaoping's sons, came over to America to study in Boston and lived with an American family named Samsel. Sam Samsel and his wife had Deng Xiaoping's son living in their home. Sam Samson and his first or second man in command of American Express. So this kid from China is now exposed to a magnificent country, city in America, i.e. Boston, and a wonderful company in America, i.e. American Express, and all the rest, and it changed the kid's life. He even became a Christian while he was in Boston. They had to call his dad up, calling the Premier of China. Dad, yes? Dad, I've got a little something to tell you. Yeah? Dad, I become a Christian. Deng Xiaoping says, good, fine with me. It's great. He was just very, very positive. But anyway, what does Deng Xiaoping do? He says communism doesn't work. What does Deng Xiaoping do? He says that to get rich is glorious. What does Deng Xiaoping do? He gives leases on 30-year and 50-year leases. What's my point? They begin to institute economic freedom. And so starting in about 1980, after 5,000 years of not getting liftoff, nothing, poverty, starting in 1980 with Deng Xiaoping. And by the way, this is not throwing a leaf to Deng Xiaoping. He's also the same guy that called for that massacre in Tiananmen Square. And in fact, one of Deng Xiaoping's sons was out there, not sons, but friends of sons, and was killed. I mean, thousands of kids were killed on Tiananmen Square. But here's how you handle it. When there's a big, massive killing in Tiananmen Square, you bring in big bulldozers, you bulldoze all those people, you get a loader truck, and you put them in the back of the truck, you bring out the fire hoses, and you're back to normal. 5 hours after Tiananmen Square, and thousands of people massacred out in that square, and all business as usual. That's what they did. So it's a heartbreaker, be that as it may. Deng Xiaoping says communism is not going to work, and he begins to institute economic freedom. Those of you that are not economists, I'll just help you a second on that concept. Economic freedom, the economic freedom to save, the economic freedom to invest, the economic freedom to move where you want, the economic freedom to work where you want, the economic freedom to live where you want, the economic freedom to hire and fire, etc. All those economic freedoms which our forefathers paid their lives to give us those economic, they work, and finally China enters into its system, economic freedom, and China begins to get liftoff. So whether we're in Uganda, as we were a few months ago, or earlier than that, Romania, earlier than that, Albania, or we're in Papua New Guinea, or we're somewhere in India, or we're somewhere in China, there's always hope with good information. And good information is that freedom works. Freedom is the mainspring. Oh my gosh. I had too much fun. I'm so sorry. You're going to have to all skip your next class and stay right here. I'm teasing. Thanks for standing up, Colonel Gray. So, what can you do? First of all, please understand something. That helping people to become helpless is not an act of kindness. Understand something. People need sewing machines, not sweaters. People need a hand up, not a hand out. We can do all kinds of things with a hand up, with technology, with machinery, with good ideas, with things that come from the agricultural revolution, the industrial. Sure, we should be involved. Hand up, hand up, hand up. No hand out. The problem with hand out, it creates entitlement. Entitlement creates dependence. Dependence is bad news. Helping people to become helpless is not an act of kindness. So make sure, as you're going to the world that you're going to go to, it's hand up help. Hand up help, not hand out. They don't need a sweater. They need a sewing machine. That's what individuals can do. As you all move into positions of power, Wayne and I feel that this book could be one of the most powerful tools you've ever used. I'm here today because of this book. I was in Uganda 2 months ago because of this book. I was in Cape Town, South Africa